All right, let me introduce the panel to talk about the election and the wrap-up and everything that's going on. Here with me on the set in New York is Paul Westcott, host of the White House Brief on allpoliticsradio.com.
Hi.
Okay, welcome. And I think you probably saw a little bit of David Mercer, who kind of popped up in our screen a little earlier today. He's a Democratic strategist, founder of Mercer and Associates. Welcome, David.
It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Yeah, well, good thing you were smiling when we went to you unannounced there. You looked like you took it all in stride. I love that.
It's all in fun.
Well, let's go back to the speech last night because I want to show people who are watching the cover of the New York Post. And this almost is like the cover of every newspaper. Even the New York Times had the same cover. They had a front view of this exact pose, demeanor of the president. It kind of says it all. David, why don't you go first?
I'm sorry, I didn't see the cover.
Did you see the cover? It shows a very...
I'd say sullen.
A very sullen and in a bad mood president. He is basically saying, you know, I messed up. I got a shellacking. That's the view we're seeing there. What do you think of his speech yesterday?
I thought it was a good speech. I thought it was exhaustive. I thought he spent a lot of time addressing a wide range of questions, from personal psyche and what his mindset was to, you know, going forward and the prospects of compromise or working with what is going to be the new House leadership come January. And in any situation like this, I think you're going to get a pensive and reflective pose by anybody, and we've seen it by Bush in the midterms of 2006. We saw it by Bill Clinton, and you know that's part of the story. I mean, we're making a lot of fanfare about this, but this is almost a matter of course. Every midterm election within
David,
the last 100 years, we've seen the majority party lose when they had the White House.
Yeah, but he had to have seen this coming, and the polls were showing that the votes were going to go to the Democrats. Even the Senate thought maybe they're going to go to the Republicans as well. So he had to see it coming. Was he just putting up a good face then for the few weeks leading into the elections, or did he really believe that they were not going to lose the House?
Well, I think it's his recognition, as with any politician. You know, it's not over until the voters have the last say, and you do everything, uncover every stone possible, and deploy every resource to make sure your message gets out. You put your closing arguments to it. You get your volunteers and your operatives all working to get that vote out. So, of course, you're going to put your shoulder to the wheel and make sure that you've done everything possible to see that your message got out so that the voters can make an informed and educated choice between, the parties that are being represented among the candidates.
Let me get Paul in here because he's chomping at the bit. I can feel it over here. Just trying to get in on this. Paul, what do you think?
Getting excited. Well, I would have to say my favorite line from yesterday was definitely when he said, we don't want to relitigate the past. And then he goes on to say, well, it was Bush's fault that we got into this. He started talking about how I inherited this. So I'm saying, okay, a little hypocritical there. And I think the speech was okay, but we've heard it before. Healthcare, when he said, we're going to work with Republicans. We invited them to Blair House, didn't listen to any of their ideas, and shut them out through 99.9% of that process.
Well, where do we go from here? Go ahead.
I have to beg to differ there, Paul, because with the reforms and the legislation that has been passed, the Republicans certainly had an option to vote on those bills, and they chose to vote no on all of them.
Because they were bad.
They voted against the interest of the
Americans don't like them.
Working family. They do like them because
they
don't. Elected a Congress in 2008.
That was the point of this election. They don't like them.
And we got it done. So, you got to give credit where credit is due. And to say that it hasn't been a recovery is to, belie the facts, where in the last 9 months, the private sector every month has grown with regard to jobs.
But
now, we had to
David,
overcome a deficit of 600,000 job losses a month during the Bush administration. But nonetheless,
and 400
we're moving forward in dealing with that.
But David, can I ask you a question, though? It is clear that people do not like many parts of the health care reform bill, and this was something many Americans felt was shoved down their throats. I mean, don't you see parts of this as a commentary on the health care bill and what happened during that?
I'll tell you and come back to that, but as a commentary, what I see as the most telling thing here was the independents. And, let me first state that, it was an overwhelming, 55-40 turnout of independents for the Republican candidates. Almost the reverse of what happened in 2006 and 2008. But the major point in those numbers is that it has led to switches over the last 3 cycles. And so Republicans and Democrats need to take note of this independent vote. And they're the referees of the party, of the parties and what goes on here in Washington. And they're going to keep switching until the parties get together and learn how to govern and come to compromise to get solutions that address the American working family. And I think you heard yesterday in the speech by Obama is setting the tone for doing that. I'll even give credit to the speaker designate, Boehner, in setting the same tone. But he's going to have to rein in, minority leader, the minority leader in the Senate and DeMint and some of the Tea Partiers.
Respond to some of this.
Paul, what do you think?
I mean, all in all, what we have right now, you have the president and John Boehner saying, yeah, we're going to cooperate with each other. But the reality is Americans said no more. They didn't like the health care. You spoke about independence there, David. The bottom line is independents said their number one issue was the health care bill, and they voted overwhelmingly towards Republicans. That's the reality.
Thought the economy.
No. They said health care.
Low double digits in terms of health care.
Health care. That's
if you really believe that, Paul, if you believe that, and your Republican colleagues believe that, let them go ahead and try and do a repeal of the health care reform bill.
Let me bring in another point. Because I cover religion here at Fox, and my focus is always looking at the faith voters. And something that popped up yesterday, which was amazing to me, is that how many Catholics went to vote for the GOP. The Catholics are usually very much sided with the Democrats, or they're split down the middle, or they reflect the general public. 58% of Catholics went to the GOP. That is a 20% jump since the last election. What does that tell you?
Yeah,
I think
they're like the rest of the country.
Independents. I'm sorry, Paul, go ahead, please.
No, I was just going to say they're exactly like the rest of the country. Everybody leaned towards the GOP this time. Economists have said this in terms of the health care bill. Americans said they didn't like it, so therefore they voted down Obama. They voted down the Democrats. It's just that simple.
Paul, let me tell you a very compelling fact. Half of the Blue Dogs that voted against health care, you will not be seeing in Congress come January, okay? And 99% of the progressives that did vote with health care will be returning in January. So you got to look at these numbers a lot deeper than we're just looking at them on the surface, okay? Those that voted from Blue Dogs that voted against health care found themselves out of a job.
How'd Blanche Lincoln do?
Let me get some of the viewers
Blanche
in on
Lincoln
this
did lose.
We have a chat.
But
She voted for it.
Say to the point
She voted for it.
Paul.
David, we have a very active chat room over here, and I want to get some of the chat people in here. Rabin, MD. So the Republicans are dolts, and the Independents are almost Democrats. That was one comment. Keep that in mind. King of Politics, separate the infidel in Congress to the patriot. I don't even know what that means, actually. Let me go to, okay, this is Stephen Berner. He says that, in fact, the only way there will be job growth is from private sector. All of the poor people will hire all those who are unemployed. All of the poor people will hire those all unemployed. One of the things...
Might we comment on that?
Please comment on that.
Yeah. The problem is there's almost $2 trillion sitting on the sidelines from the private sector. And yes, they're looking for a little more certainty, perhaps even on the Bush tax cuts, which hopefully, I'm almost assured, will be addressed before they would expire in January. But the point is, when you're in a recession like this, you do have to have some kind of stimulation. Some would even argue that the stimulus bill didn't go far enough. We can leave that debate for another time.
Yeah.
But when the private sector is not spending, you have got to do a jump start or keep pushing so we don't fall back further into a deeper ditch on the recession.
Let me bring in something else here, though, because we talked about John Boehner. He's the new House Speaker, and he's going to have to be a consensus builder here. He's not going to be able, this is going to be a different kind of Congress because John Boehner is there.
I agree.
Since he's the Republican, he's going to be the House majority. He's going to be the House Speaker. Paul, what do you see? I mean, what is his first job going to be when he gets in there?
I think the first thing he has to address is what the American people said, which is to cut down the size of government and which is to strip out all the provisions, if not the entire health care bill, that people don't like. They said they don't like it. They were sent to Washington. Now they're going to go rip it apart. And that's exactly what they were sent there to do. Jim DeMint did a great piece today in the Wall Street Journal. And what he said was, listen, you can't just come here and all of a sudden go Washington. Don't turn into a Washingtonian. Become the, be the Patriots, be the Americans. That's what he was talking about on the chat as well. Infidels versus Patriots, meaning the people who are there who are going to go in, be coddled by the middle, move towards the center, forget why they were brought into Congress, why they were brought into office. They need to shut down the spending.
Well, and the problem he's going to have, if I might add, the problem Boehner's going to have is that, the whole old adage of, doing one thing, saying one thing and doing another. And we all know how Republicans rallied up against the stimulus bill, but then in their private offices were lobbying on behalf of the very stimulus dollars to stimulate growth and jobs in their districts.
Well, that was wrong.
So how he deals with that, both from the hypocrisy standpoint and also in towing a steady line of cutting the deficit and spending, he's got his hands full on that one.
Well, let's look at the tax cuts. The 2001